Um, what? Today is a Thursday.
Today is a Thursday
Yeah,
indeed.
7:50 p.m. All right, Ronald. I don't. I think I don't need to ask you what brings you to Latvia, right? It's the same as before.
Yeah, competition as per usual, but it was about getting across the border into Belarus in an easy way. Recently, the government started to relax the visa rules, so to offer visa-free travel to the country. And if you fly into Minsk airport, it's just been rebuilt. I think there's like a tourism tax on each visitor. So you have visa-free travel for a month if you fly through the capital city and fly out of the capital city. But then I've spent more time reading around their visa rules since then, and if you cross the border from Lithuania or from Poland, it's also visa-free. But what's strange is there's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Belarus, and then there's the Belarusian embassies around the world, and they're giving conflicting information. And that's borderline scary because visa rules, you want to obey them because you don't want to be turned around or arrested or whatnot. So you kind of want consistency, and there's a lot of inconsistency. It's actual travelers advising one another, and it's not how it should be.
So if you say that the rules are relaxed, then probably the ones who conflict with that are just the ones who don't know.
So, Belarus borders many countries: Ukraine, Russia. I don't know if there's a border of Latvia off the top of my head. I don't remember. I don't think so because Lithuania's to the south.
That's Belarus?
Yes.
There should be.
But there is, okay.
I don't know how much.
Okay, maybe even a little. Right, so it's inconsistent because the Latvian, Russian and Ukrainian borders are not visa-free. You can't cross them. But in parts of the Lithuania and Polish border, it is visa-free. And unless you've got really good local geography, you could kind of be screwed because you'll get to a land border and then you're like, no, you can't come in. You have to go all the way back around there. So say somewhere like England, well, the public transport is very expensive, but it does get all the nooks and crannies of the country. But I'm kind of the crazy guy who would hitchhike these things, so I would happily go to a border if I knew it was a visa-free border. But because the information is coming from different sources, I kind of shied away. And it's cold right now, so to be hitchhiking in this weather to a border that I can't cross, it's not the one. So I'll do the fly into Minsk from Riga and the fly out of Minsk back to Riga, because it's an airport I know, so it's less daunting.
And what will you be smuggling?
Oh gosh, if only. No, I'll be at a competition in Minsk. I just had a awful competition in Uzbekistan because we had a formal dinner at the end, and the Uzbeks actually paid for me to go, to the competition, and the Ukrainians were bullying me to drink alcohol, and I did, and it all came back up. So I've kind of got that image I've left with the Uzbeks, so I have to use this competition to wipe it away, to try and clean the slate, as they say.
And what if there are also some Ukrainians in Minsk?
I don't know what I want to say to them, because after that last one, the Latvians and Belarusians came to me to say, dude, you need to control yourself, you're drinking way too much and that's just uncalled for. And I was like, you sat at the table and you saw what the Ukrainians were doing, and yeah, I'm the bad guy. So, and then the Ukrainians didn't come to see me at all, so I don't know what they're thinking about it since then. But I mean, genuinely, I don't mind people doing crazy stuff. I've done crazy stuff, but it just wasn't the time or place to do it, because even as I left the bar, I saw a fight break out between the restaurant owner and one of the Uzbeks. And that's not cool, because they've brought me in as their guest and I've acted the fool.
Do the Uzbeks drink?
They do, but Central Asia, many of them are Muslim, so just things that would be acceptable in one society, like in England, you could get drunk in the street and pass out. People would give you an odd look, but it's socially acceptable. But you wouldn't see that kind of thing in Uzbekistan. You just don't. And I was fully aware of it myself. So when it happened, I was annoyed at myself, and they gave me a gift, and I lost it. So yes,
it happens.
See, here we could have said it happens, but there it's on my mind, like in a bad way. So I'm hoping that this competition, if I can finally perform well and give people something else to talk about, then that crazy guy.
So how's life in England these days?
Oh, how is it? I think if you watch the current affairs and the news and stuff, you don't know if you're coming or going there, because Brexit, is it happening? Is it not happening? It's just always a knife edge. So it's an election today, and I didn't bother to vote because I don't believe that my vote would count for anything, and I didn't really know who I'm voting for. There's two sort of main candidates, Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn.
For what?
So they're standing to be Prime Minister. Under the electoral system in England is really a two-party system. Like, you've all the other minority parties, but they're not likely to get ahead.
Is this some form of special election?
Well, no, it's the national election. So whichever candidates from whichever party get the most seats.
Was it scheduled even before Brexit?
This was kind of organised to stop the deadlock. At the moment, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, barely has enough MPs to govern the country. So he's governing the country, but they can't push policy through because all it takes is one or two unsatisfied MPs and then policies fell, and that's what's been happening. So yeah, there's an election, and Boris Johnson, why I'm not keen on him is he's going around the country allegedly to meet with the public, but he picks and chooses who he talks to. And
why not?
Well, if you're the Prime Minister, I'd like to think he's accessible to everyone, and he's anything
only those
but
important ones.
Well, right, people with money.
Sure.
But he's
you
taking
can't
it.
please anybody.
He's taken it to an extreme. He's taken it to a major extreme. Like, major news journalists can't get interviews with him, and these are like well-known journalists up and down the land.
Maybe it's because journalists don't really have any importance anymore.
There's that, because people are getting their stuff from Facebook and Instagram, but the thing is he doesn't know if the interview's going to go very well, and if it's going to embarrass him, he'd rather not do it.
I think I saw some piece on last week tonight where they basically said that Boris Johnson is just pretending to be a little bit chaotic, that it's actually a sort of a role he wants to portray.
I can believe that, but to an extent, you've got to be serious to be the Prime Minister, because all these sort of budding democracies around the world are supposedly looking up to the UK for leadership, and if
who is looking up for
former colonies in Africa and Asia, maybe countries like Latvia?
Nope. No.
That's surprising, because British people refer to the Westminster Parliament as the mother of all parliaments. I think the British political system is still somewhat under the impression that British Empire rule has not really diminished. Gone, right. So yeah, it's interesting to see foreigners are like, not really interested, because people there genuinely think it's the centre of the earth still. It will kind of hurt their feelings to know that.
And maybe it's sort of a psychological trick. If you believe you are important, maybe you are to somebody.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other candidate, well, there's many, but the two principal candidates, Johnson and Corbyn. Corbyn's promising all kinds of things: free broadband internet, free childcare, free university, free school meals, nationalising industry.
And why didn't you vote for him?
As much as free everything is nice, in the real world it doesn't work like that.
But maybe in England it does.
Well, you can start taxing corporations more. You can start taxing the high net worth people more, because I do think they are undertaxed in the UK. But I've always said that taxing people who or organizations that can move around like that, it's got to be I guess on a global level, where you have major economies like USA, Japan, Germany, France and the UK all agreeing at the same time that we're going to tax these people, because then they've got nowhere to run to. But if Corbyn steps out on his own and starts taxing the hell out of them, I think they will, in many cases they'll leave.
What if he just raids the city of London?
But
there should be some trillions.
What way?
To spare.
Like do what exactly?
To finance all his projects.
But how to take the finance from the city of London?
Probably by some parliament law. I don't know.
Well, no, legislation, of course. Yeah, that's the way you get individuals and entities to do what you want to do. You legislate against them. But there's so many loophole lawyers, as I call them, out there. They'll find ways to.
There are only the intended loopholes, right? Usually it's somebody who wants them to be there.
But then, yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head there, because I feel, well, maybe not in the case of Corbyn, but definitely in the case of Boris Johnson, when you have lawyer lobbies, banking lobbies, property developer lobbies, all these lobbies around you who finance your electoral campaigns, finance the coffers of your political party, who invite you to nice dinners and give you a nice watch and all these little perks, it becomes
probably more than just a watch.
Just a bit more than that. But it becomes a bit difficult to start saying, yeah, I'm going to tax you, or yeah, I'm going to shut down your loopholes. It's conflicts of interest.
But there must be some socialist in your country.
Wait, this is the Corbyn guy, Jeremy Corbyn.
See?
But
maybe he's the one, the chosen one.
Well, yeah, for his whole political career, he's voted against the Iraq wars and corporations and this and that. And I mean, to an extent, I do think, like, yeah, he's a radical, he's a revolutionary, he could bring change to the country, but I just worry he's promising too much. Like universities, I do think it's nice if they're free. Many students in mainland Europe pay just, I think, a registration fee every year for a couple £100 to study, and then that's about it.
I don't know about that. I think in Finland, maybe.
I think France as well, they just pay a few £100 and then that's them for the year in terms of university tuition.
I somehow remember somebody telling me that also in France they pay
nothing like England.
Maybe the sums
in euros, about £10,000 a year tuition fees alone.
In Latvia it would be more like 2,000 or 3,000 euros.
It was about that in England under Tony Blair, but it's gone up drastically. And then
because you got that Arab money over there.
Oh no, but then foreign students, as in non-EU students, pay even more, because the government legislate against universities charging unlimited amounts to home students and EU students, but non-EU students pay sometimes as much as £20,000, which is about 20,000 euros a year on tuition. But no, I just think there's far too many universities in England, far too many, and
because there are businesses.
Well, for sure, but people, if they go to these institutions, hopefully researched their course, hopefully spoke to former graduates from their course, spoke to people in industry to say, how much do you value my degree if I come to you in 3-4 years time with a qualification from this place? And young people don't always do that. So if Corbyn said, yes, university is going to be free, but I'm going to shut down half of them and just keep the ones behind that will lift your pay packet in a few years' time, I could support him. But if you say, oh yeah, free universities, I don't think it's responsible. Then free childcare, that's controversial. Yeah, it's nice to give people with children free stuff, but for voters who don't have children, and me, someone who doesn't want to have children, I'd have to be, what's that word? Is it altruistic to say, yeah, I'll vote for him even though he's helping people with children, even though I'm not benefiting? So I think he could have thought more carefully around that. There's talk of nationalising the railways, which he'll probably persuade the majority of the population with that one, just because many trains are delayed, cancelled, fares rise. But all that seems to happen is the CEOs of these train companies and their shareholders get paid nice dividends every year. So kind of has public support on that policy. Free broadband, they're saying it would lift up the economy, but I'm not sure how it trickles down to that it will boost economic growth by giving everyone free broadband. I'm just not sure. I mean, personally, I use the computer to learn foreign language or to research subjects, whether it's mathematics or science or nature. For me, I could see how having access to fast internet would be a good thing, but everyone's just watching social media and gossip stuff, like reality TV.
Entertainment has also economic value
for the content producer because they're earning money per each click.
I actually don't mean it in a sort of just a monetizing way. I mean it in a live quality way. Because live quality is definitely important for the economy, but it's usually difficult to measure.
Well, no, I'm saying people's leisure time, it's great because they've got free time and they can. I'm struggling with that one. No. As I said, if we're serious, and I don't think there are many serious people in England that they're going to use the internet to learn about economics or about starting up your own business or about online marketing, or it could make little widgets on the side of the screen that people click and then they get a commission for it. People sort of use the broadband sort of with the business mind at the back of their head, then I'd support that. But no,
there should be a list of the most popular sites in England, right?
Yeah, I remembered seeing that list. Yeah, that's one of the things I looked up.
Well, what could that be?
So some of the websites that were visited were the BBC.
Really?
Source of news, even though it's biased news, but hey, at least it's not Kardashians, because that would be really scary. Then you've got Google. That's open-ended because you could be using Google to research something that is particularly interesting or just, again, gossip news. Then you've got, I think, Amazon, the shopping site. Again, that's people buying stuff they don't really need. So giving someone a free fast broadband connection just to buy stuff they're not going to use, is that really adding value? Then there was I think Reddit, the blogging site, and I find that very interesting. Like when I was looking at this border stuff in Belarus, there were conversations going on for pages. So it's like, for me, that one I'll accept.
I'm surprised Live Jasmine is only 12th.
Ooh, only?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But this is number one, YouTube number 2, Amazon, Reddit, well, Google again, BBC, Wikipedia, Facebook, Lad Bible.
That's a banter site. Some guys at university, they started uploading photos of a cute dog. And then everyone started clicking the pictures of the cute dog, and then they were like, let's monetize this.
And funny enough, VK.com is 18th.
Whoa.
And that's a Russian site.
That's very high. But to be honest,
before Pornhub.
The only people who use VK in England, I mean, I use it as a Russian speaker, but
that's what I mean.
But I'm only because I'm a Russian speaker. I wouldn't expect English speakers to be using it, and the only ones who do, and I've met a bunch of these guys, are all the racists. Like, because Facebook has this thing called community standards, and anything Holocaust this or black this or Muslims that, Facebook just takes it down straight away. VK on the other hand, it's like you do what you like. So all these guys who was posting racist stuff on Facebook, they got fed up, so they went to VK. So that
good move.
Kind of coming full circle back to our first podcast, it proves what sort of subtle racists British people are, because I can't, as I said, I'm a Russian speaker and I'm on VK to talk to Russian friends, but English speaking community in there are there to be racist. So for it to be the 18th biggest, it's like 18th most popular site in the UK, it tells me something, because I can't quantify how many people, and you've just quantified it for me. Wow. Wow, yeah. Because honestly, there's no, and all the sort of fake news about, oh, the government's putting stuff in your tap water, those things do very well on VK, but English speaking, I've not seen anything or values it, as I said. So Corbyn giving free broadband, like I thought through all these candidates quite carefully, and as I said, I just think, what else is he doing that I'm not a fan of? Immigration, for whatever reason, the UK is like this land that's got roads paved with gold. That rumour just won't go away. Like, I don't know if it made the news in Latvia, but you had a lorry that had about 30 people from Vietnam in there who suffocated, and they were trying to get to England.
A lorry was a vehicle?
Yeah, lorry, truck. Don't
Okay.
know what you'd say, but you go for the American English truck. Yeah, and what's disturbing, they weren't running away from a war, they weren't running away from being persecuted. They'd each paid €30,000 to get to England so they could get a good job. But then I'm confused because British passport holders with the right to work struggle to find good work. So how an outsider is going to come in and do better than them?
But you can find work in England, right? Pretty easily.
I mean, to stereotype, the only thing that I've seen Vietnamese people doing, and this is just stereotyping, is nail salons for the ladies and restaurants.
Yeah, that's what they do.
And then
drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they do.
So that's interesting to think they're going to make that much money from that to pay back that 30,000 euros, man. To pay that. Like, to even get a business visa to America or the UK, I don't think it costs that much. And at least you'll have that peace of mind in you that your business proposal isn't going to have the police or the feds or money laundering people after you.
I think the Vietnamese think logistically. I think they operate in a certain radius.
Yes.
And they have to know that their line of communication and supply will be there in a certain amount of time. So
But
if you go from
finish.
continental Europe to Great Britain, I think it's just a network of them.
I mean,
Because they are really, really collective people.
yeah, they are. But then the thing is there's stories of Vietnamese, and this is from the past, who've come forward and said, I came here for it being an amazing life. And then I just was basically people trafficked here. I worked non-stop. They took my passport from me. I can't speak the local language. I'm trapped. I don't know who to turn to. And eventually I got away from it all. But no, it wasn't this life of luxury that I thought it would be, you know? And people have come forward from the Vietnamese community and said that. And like, 'cause I was fostered, if you probably remembered, with some Vietnamese kids, and their mum had just put like them on a truck with Vietnamese smugglers, and they were just left on the bridge over the Thames in London just to fend for themselves, and they were asking people for bread, and then they got put into foster homes, and I lived with them. But surely now they're grown up and they'd have wrote back to Vietnam somewhere, or said something on a blog and said, yeah, I'm here, and no, I didn't come here and find roads paved with gold. And it just, as I said, this thing, it just won't stop. Anyway, coming back to the Corbyn now, I think he wants to relax immigration rules to the UK, and I'm someone of colour, so it's not really my place to say, oh no one can come to England, but it's full. The country is so full.
Is it?
It is. I mean, yeah, there's green space, and that can be built over into a concrete jungle, as new cities are called. But why not just leave it green? No, but the built-up areas are built to the max. Like London, there used to be a lot of land in the capital that was just like rubble, but even the rubble land's being prettied up and turned into skyscrapers.
So
and
there's
stuff.
a benefit.
Population. Okay, so if you get a new railway line in London, or if you increase the frequency of the trains on the existing lines, you have spare capacity for like a day, and then it's congested again. So moving around town, particularly in the rush hours, it's not fun. I mean,
If you, unless you just take an electric scooter,
you can.
Those are nice.
I mean, I was a massive fan of cycling, but I find it really dangerous.
I mean that kick scooter.
On the pavement.
Yeah.
But then again, people
So
just
nice.
crossing
So nice.
in front of you like
Still.
maniacs. I mean, I'm guilty as charged. I've stepped into the road before without looking and seeing an oncoming bike almost hit me. And I have a funny story that I'll come back to that. But I'm saying as an avid cyclist, I'm just not prepared to do it anymore because the people on the roads, everyone's rushing around, you know, and I might get hit. And it's not because I'm not careful. I mean, there was that time I just told you where I was not careful, but generally I'm careful. But at the end of the day, it just takes someone to be texting or drinking a coffee, and then I'm over. And then that wasn't even the main reason why I don't want to cycle anymore. It's the thieving. It's just incredible. Like in broad daylight in my area, Clapham Junction, there's a bicycle rack, and Clapham Junction is the busiest railway station, I think, in Europe. That's what it said on one of the placards. And the bike thieves had no shame to be yanking the bikes off of the frame, trying to break people's bikes away from the lots, and that was in broad daylight. So you can only imagine what's happening in the dark when they think they've got the.
What do they do with them?
I wish I knew. I mean,
do they make money over them?
Perhaps, particularly when avid cyclists are spending £1,000 on a bike. Yeah, they're not going to make 1,000, but if they can make 100, they're still doing good.
Then that's the move. You just need to buy really, really cheap bicycles.
Okay, and then I have a story there, because my housemate had a cheap bicycle for €20, and he didn't bother to chain it because he said no one's going to steal this.
Yeah,
it got stolen.
Still, you could just buy a new one for 20.
But I would
no biggie.
Whatever it is, if you bought a telescope to look at the stars, or you bought something that's potentially expensive.
Think of it as they just brought your trash out.
But no, coming back to the bicycles, telescope as an example, when you buy certain kinds of equipment, or a digital camera or a bicycle, you spend a lot because you want to enjoy the experience. So, you know, you buy an expensive bike, it's got suspension, absorbs the, you know, the bumpy journeys, the saddle feels comfortable to sit on, the gears
and you can also just put a GPS tracker in it.
That's what can be done. Yeah, you can put GPS trackers in the frame now. But all of the stealing and reading about cyclists that got squashed, I just thought, you know what, find something else. And it sucks. But just sticking to this issue of the city being congested, and what else? Yeah, employment. It just gets worse and worse. Like, I pick up warehouse work when I'm not competing, and the way they just throw you on the scrap heap, it's not funny. On the app, I get it through an app, I have to agree to show up to work or be struck off, which is reasonable. And I show up to work and I'm told, oh, we've got too many guys, so yeah, goodbye.
Wow, that sounds really effective. Right?
Yeah, or stewards, when I did this, people in the football stadiums and whatnot, showing you to seats and lost property, or where's the nearest exit, or where's the nearest smoking area. Same thing. They get into the stadiums and they're told to arrive on time, as they do, but the people who arrive near the back of the arrivals are told, yeah, we just asked for more of you to be here just to be on the safe side, but yeah, we don't need you now, goodbye.
I guess airlines do the same, right?
With who?
With passengers.
Oh no, see, that's different, because they oversell, because they assume people won't show up. But the law is clear in this. If you're denied boarding because they oversold, they have to pay you, depending on the distance of the flight, between €300 to I think as much as €600, and they have to put you in a hotel meanwhile. So if, for example, you bought a flight for €30 and then a last minute person shows up who urgently needs to get to that business meeting or to a wedding and is going to pay £1,000, that's good economics there. Yeah, so they'll probably oversell, but that's why they'll oversell. And crucially for the consumer, there are laws there for them to claim against the airline if the airline oversells them. back to my working situation, I need to know the law, which I do. I've written to the company to say you're in breach of contract and I want to be paid for that shift, and I've not had any response from them. And I will send them a letter in the new year to say I'm taking you to court if you don't pay me for that shift. And unfortunately, the vast majority of workforce don't know how to do that. So
Yeah, won't bother. And even if
they wouldn't bother, because I mean, I could do it blindfolded, so I'm just going to do it. But yeah, the value is low, and if they were going to instruct a lawyer to do it for them, by the time they pay the lawyer, it's just not worth it anymore. But I'm saying Corbyn's response to these issues, so kind of overlapping workers' rights with immigration, he wants to relax immigration rules. And as I said, if local workers are struggling and Vietnamese people are prepared to pay £30,000 to go in the back of a lorry, it tells me that relaxing the rules is going to just make an even bigger deluge of people coming into the city. I don't know if you can see that.
But preferably legally.
But then legally, because then the smugglers don't have a person to smuggle anymore. But then coming back to what I said to you about being able to go down the pavement with the electric scooter, it's not going to happen because it will be packed full of people trying to cycle, people stepping out into the road, and congestion, and people trying to get from A to B. As I said, London feels very congested.
You're talking a big city, but usually in the towns it will be probably the same.
The problem is, I don't want to sidetrack to finish my first point, but with the cities. So London is the capital, but all the infrastructure projects happen there. All the skyscrapers are there, all the railways are there, all the museums are there, all the embassies are there. Do I need to be there? It depends, because I could show you plenty of people who moved from Birmingham, the second city, which is still on its own quite a big city, to London because they just couldn't find work in their city, or they felt the work they can get in London allows them to progress. So I can think of plenty of examples for you of people who are already coming from the regions. And I mean, for an example, the government have more leeway with state companies. I think BBC being an example. The studios were in London and they built studios up in Manchester to, I guess, outsource some of the work to regional England. And I'm not too sure if that worked, because a lot of the TV presenters want to remain in London. That's for their houses are there, their kids are there, their social networks are there. And I believe the BBC is paying their commute up and down. And then all the celebrities, if they want to visit England and promote their new song or whatever, they want to be in London. And then the BBC is paying for them to fly up to the Manchester studios quickly and then fly back down to London. And then it's like you've kind of got a white elephant as an expression, if you heard of it.
A white elephant?
Yeah, where something was just pointless. Like you spent a lot of money on
I just heard of an elephant in the room.
So a white elephant, I think I'm quoting it correctly, it's where you just have a project that you spent a lot of money on. Like in London in the Millennium Year, there was this thing called the Millennium Dome, where the government's like, hey, we're going to build this attraction, it's going to be sort of lifelong memories for people, and it's going to make tourists from all over the world want to come and visit London, and we're going to spend tons of money on it. And then by the end of the Millennium Year, they didn't have enough visitors, and it was converted into a sort of sports stadium. So we'd say the Millennium Dome was a white elephant. But Corbyn would allow all these people to come in legally, but then the problem would be, to me, how you're gonna protect workers' rights, because I've already told you about my working experiences where employers just have you like that. If you give them even more, workers to pick from and choose from, how are they going to be incentivized to increase wages, to offer workers a final salary pension?
They won't.
Thank you.
But you will have more opportunities for work.
How?
Because
You've got to explain.
because the work amount is not really fixed. Once you have more people, you have more work. It's just inevitable.
What? Doing what? No, you got to give me
No, because
examples.
an economy is based on people.
Right.
The amount of people determines how much work needs to get done. So more people means more work.
I mean, more pressure on social housing, more pressure on state healthcare.
I guess that
so
as
you'll
well.
need more doctors for that.
But it's
more builders building
also
housing.
for the private sector. Also means more business. It's just inevitable.
Right. So I'm an existing British citizen earning crumbs. So you're going to bring in more people earning more crumbs. So same crumbs that I'm using, that we're going to share them between us, and yet they're going to be able to go to the department store and buy consumer durables, buy TVs, buy sofas. No,
in the long run, yes, because you having to compete with more people means more competition. So it's not really that.
So wages will be coming down.
It's not a zero-sum
more.
game. It's mostly the opposite. Because
You've got to help me here. I'm struggling.
Well,
I'm tired, but no. Explain to me. I'm all ears.
Well, you would be preferred choice compared to many immigrant workers who are not qualified as you are. At least when it comes to the language, for instance.
Oh no.
So you could command bigger wages than they.
Alright, so I'll give you another example. It seems like I'm just stigmatizing
They
foreigners
are
here,
just
but
diluting.
in my workplace, you have a sign saying, "Please don't wash your feet in the sink." Why would you need to have that sign up?
Because some cultures prefer to wash their feet in the sink, I guess.
So then why would you be saying that it's going to be a good thing to bring in even more workers, which will be coming from other cultures, into my workplace?
I'm not saying in the short term 1 to 6 months, but I'm saying 1 to 3 years.
No, you've already identified together a cultural problem this can bring, and I can think of many more.
I don't think there are any economies that have been destroyed by increasing the population. I know of economies who have never really gained much traction while gaining in population.
And are these people coming in high skilled, low skilled, middle skilled? What skilled? Tell me.
Well, if I would have to guess, it sounds like most of them would be low.
Correct. Low skilled people. But you're not helping me here. You're really not.
Because it's not about them. It's about what they bring with them as attachments.
Dependent.
Them as well.
This is helping the economy how?
In the long term, yes.
Dude. Gosh, you liberals make me laugh so much.
Because that's just more hands in the workforce. It's never
doing what exactly.
Think of it.
Yeah.
Think of it as a simple equation.
Right.
You have 4 hands, right? Just a simple example. 4 hands. 4 hands cannot do the work of 12 hands, right? In the same amount of time, right? Right? 4 hands could do the same work maybe as 12 hands, but it would take them 3 times more time, right?
So you're just implying to have more productivity, you need more people.
Yes, usually that's the case.
Right, usually, but no, there are exceptions. But I'm saying, in my opinion, you've got a situation in the UK where you have far too many people who are of low productivity. I don't know what they're doing.
Well, you can argue that they are not really being put to use wisely for the economy.
They're going to require training to be productive sort of participants in the economy. Who's providing that training? Who's paying for that training?
Somebody, if it's really needed.
If it's really needed. Ultimately, is that somebody going to be if Corbyn's opening the border saying, "Hey, everyone, move to England tomorrow"?
Look, if Amazon needs trained employees, it'll train them.
Will they?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Sure.
No, because for an example, in America, around their bases, there are plenty of unemployed Americans who would love a job there, but then the Americans just say, so Amazon just tells the American government, no, we need some visas for some skilled people from abroad to come in and do the work, and then the locals are just not needed.
So
they're going to feel resentful They're going to be holding placards outside saying,
If they
"Go away, Amazon," or "Go away, whoever."
If they displace you, I can understand it.
And they are being displaced in America, as an example.
But if they just compete with a lower wage that you wouldn't be able or wouldn't want to do.
Well, that's how you get votes like the Brexit vote, because they're like, all these people, some are working, some aren't working, but I can't cope. Like, I can't pay my bills because they're bringing my wages down, or local house prices are going up because everyone's competing for rent, to rent a place, so landlords take advantage and put the rents up. Queues for doctor's appointments, queues for school places for your kids at the local school. Traffic, as I told you a billion times before, it's problems. You can't just say, well...
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Yeah?
Problems are always the cause for the economy to overcome them and create growth.
Oh, dear.
It's always the case.
Well,
have you seen
something's not clicking.
Have you seen any major improvements in the economy where beforehand you didn't have any major problems? Problem or the necessity drives the
a problem
ingenuity.
Like in the UK now is all the European Union citizens have the right to seek work in the UK. Many of them are seeking work in the UK, and local workers, as I said, this is why I voted for Leave, was because you got squeezed out. So you're just saying, oh no, bringing people in will boost the economy. Yeah, employers can pay lower wages. Yeah, I saw that, but you cause resentment from the local people.
Oh, I'm not disputing that.
Right.
But that's not really important for the economy, is it?
Well, if they vote for Leave and then all the major exporters like, no, it's going to affect our...
Here's the catch.
Trade.
Here's the catch. Those citizens don't equate much to the GDP are just out of the picture.
Out of the picture how? As in what they say doesn't matter?
Yes.
But no, because there's universal suffrage in the UK. Everyone can vote.
What do you mean universal suffrage?
Everyone can vote, So
but how many
Brexit.
do? But how many do?
Well, enough voted for Leave in the referendum.
Yeah, well, but I'm not complaining.
Well, no, you don't feel unwelcome in England now.
What?
You don't feel unwelcome in England now.
No.
Many of your compatriots feel unwelcome.
Yeah, whatever.
But as I'm saying, when you just say open the borders and everything's going to be fine, it can cause resentment.
No, but that's the point. You don't just open the borders and don't do any vetting, right? But it's definitely sometimes useful to reconsider some previous rules.
So, to me, as I said before, if Corbyn is going to relax the immigration rules, which I'm sure he will or would if he wins, I don't know the result tonight.
You said that you didn't vote and you gave your vote to a dude?
Yes, I did.
So
I'm incriminating myself now.
How's it possible?
Right, so if you...
Just hypothetically, if
right, I don't care.
If we imagine.
Yeah. So if you want to vote in the UK, you need to be in the electoral register.
Okay.
British citizens can vote in the national elections, the EU elections and the local elections. However, the EU citizens can only vote in the local elections or the EU elections. So, if you are on the electoral register and you've been approved, you get a card through your door saying, hey, there's an election in a couple of weeks' time. Go along and vote. You do not need to take this card with you. And I just saw that and thought, what the actual hell did that just say? Because if I don't need to take this card with me, I know my neighbour over here's first and surname. I know his first and surname. I know plenty of first names and surnames and door numbers on this road and in many other roads. So all I need to do is go along to vote and say I'm so and so, which I wouldn't do personally because it's voter fraud and I wouldn't do it. But I said to my friend, because he's EU citizen and he can't vote in Westminster elections, hey, have my polling card and go along and make a vote and pick for your own sake a Remain political party.
Is it possible to afterwards see the results? Who voted for whom? Or is it anonymous?
It's said to be anonymous, and the idiots believe it to be anonymous, but it's not, because there's a serial number on every ballot paper they give out to every voter who shows up, and they write down that serial number on a list with all the local people. So if someone in the authorities was determined to find out who you voted for, they could. But people are led to believe it's anonymous, because then we're going way back now.
At least
because
it's not published.
in the olden days, wealthy people pay you to vote, because not everyone had to vote. Only a few people did. So if the candidates with money in their pockets went around enough local people and paid them money and said, yeah, I can check if you voted for me or not. You see? So it stops the corruption. But this system at the moment is just absurd, because I truly think every voter should go in there with photo ID, and by that I mean the ID card or passport, and say, hey, I'm Ronald Grant, or I'm Lavis Box, and I'm voting right now. This is me in that ID. But I did my first vote. I took it just out of principle, and she's like, I don't need your ID. Just tell me your name and address. And I was like, whoa. Imagine like telemarketers, because they're really good at sort of accumulating people's... if a corrupt candidate paid one of them, they'd have plenty of votes by the end of the day. But yeah, so my friend has gone off to vote today for the Greens, which is the party I wouldn't vote for. So, hey, thanks to him, I vicariously voted for them today. But yeah, I was saying to you before about the electoral system, where you have Jeremy Corbyn, who's the opposition leader, and Boris Johnson, who's the leader. There were so many other smaller parties like the Greens, and I don't feel like they're going to get a say, because how it would work is you've got all the different districts. So if you say it in Riga terms, Imanta, Ugla, Persiems, maybe pronounced that incorrectly. So your vote will only count in your constituency area. So if nationwide the Greens picking up lots and lots of votes, it won't count. It will only count if in that little constituency area they got more votes than anybody else. So in my neighbourhood, Labour are way up ahead, the Conservatives are about here, and Greens would be about here. So if you have a situation where in the last election Labour were here and the Conservatives were here, and someone was going to vote for the Greens, they'd have to vote what we say tactically, meaning even though they want to vote Greens, they might hate the Conservatives' current policy on the environment, but think Labour's not so bad. So they would lend their vote to Labour over here and help keep out the Conservatives, if that makes sense. So I mean, just nationally you have this problem, I think, where people can't vote how they want to because they're voting for the least worst option. So I could go on all day about this, but this idea with democracy there and whatever, it's just it's not for me. As I said, that's why I could happily give the flipping polling card to my friend and say, yeah, go and have a vote. Then you have BBC, who's a broadcaster that receives tax money from the government, and they're called biased all the time, and I think it's just a general thing with them. They'll be biased towards the government of the day. So right now I have a Conservative government, and the coverage they're giving the Conservatives is a lot more favourable than they're giving to Labour. But then when you had Labour in government under Tony Blair, if the name means anything to you, they got far more positive coverage than the Conservatives did. So it just goes and swings in roundabouts. But finally, especially with all these like people searching for news on Facebook or YouTube, there could be a time where we stop paying the tax to the BBC. So every household in the UK has to pay £150 fee to the government each year, and then the money goes to the BBC. I've never paid that money, and I never will pay it. So I get all these threatening letters, and they just go in the bin. So I don't feel sort of vested in the BBC because I don't pay for it, and if I did pay for it, I'd be furious because I'm like, I'm paying for this crap.
Yeah.
So I can just sit back and be like, yeah, you print or you say what you like because I don't care, and you know, I don't watch your channel. But so yeah, candidates. So I said about his immigration policy, why it doesn't work for me. What else has he done or said? Yeah, he wants to give shares to ordinary workers in large companies. I think with more than 250 employees. And
Well, they would just probably sell them off.
they're not allowed to sell them off, and
So
they'll
what should they do?
only
Just wait for
the
dividends?
dividends. Yeah, and they'll get half, I think, and he'll get the other half for general public spending.
I don't know. It seems difficult for people who are not competent in those things.
But I mean, what do you think it will do to the British companies who are now being forced to give shares to workers?
Well, the ownership would be diluted.
Well, for that, but the chances of them staying or leaving.
For the company?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. If they have enough logistics, they would just move to another country.
This is what I mean. So for all these reasons, you're saying, yeah, vote for Corbyn. I think he meant well when he said that, but also a lot of pension funds, where people pay into a pension for their future, the money just doesn't just sit there in like under the mattress. It goes into shares in companies such as British companies, and that could affect people's livelihoods in all kinds of ways. Yeah, I mean, he's revolutionary and nice and all that stuff. Like, I did genuinely give him some time, you know. I didn't just rule him out, because a lot of people, like in the past, he's been on anti-war marches and anti-capitalist marches. So because the UK generally is a capitalist country, makes him...
It's the ultimate capitalist country.
For sure. Well, America's just a bit ahead.
Man,
Or neck and neck, let's just say, yeah.
Maybe.
Basically the same, but as I said, for someone to be in all these kind of socialist marches, you're not going to pick up a lot of votes somewhere like the UK, right? So I'm saying I still gave him a chance, aside from that.
I don't know if most of the people benefit from that capitalism, though. If not...
Oh, well, no.
Socialism
They say it's trickled
foothold.
down. Well, this is the thing. He does want to turn things around, but I mean, there was a time...
He's like the Bernie Sanders of Britain.
Something like that. I mean, there was a time in the 1970s where, under the Labour Party, his party, the trade unions were very strong. They could just go and strike, then go and strike again and go and strike. And it really affected the productivity of the country. I mean, it was before my time, but people from that era saying dead bodies weren't being buried, rubbish wasn't being collected.
I think Margaret Thatcher destroyed
she did.
British economy.
Well, no, I say she destroyed the trade unions. The economy, it depends who you ask, because some people did extremely well out of her reforms. So if you wanted to set up business, or you wanted to be a landlord, or you wanted to make money, basically, she was your girl.
Yeah, what I mean is Reagan and Thatcher got used to allowing capitalism almost full reign, as far as I know. This is what I mean. Which means cutthroat capitalism.
There was winners and losers. So once upon a time, British government owned all this well, not all the housing, a lot of the housing in the country, and she sold the housing to private investors effectively,
which almost always doesn't work.
I mean, it depends, because people were on that bandwagon buying those properties at artificially low prices, and now, like, there was this one guy I read out in the newspaper all the time. Oh gosh, I think he got as many as 1,000 properties. So like, if his whole empire went kaput one day and he starts to say, oh, Thatcher sucked and she was crap, I wouldn't be impressed, because there are people who did very well out of her reforms. But then on the other hand,
but not the majority in the long run.
I don't want to quantify these numbers, but I'm saying people, for example, who've been newly released from prison, from foster care, like I was from foster care, or young single mothers or people with mental health issues, people with low incomes, don't forget them. They needed social housing, and the prospects for them are quite bleak. Like, you've got London housing, so people who are based in London, and they're being told, if you want social housing, we're going to have to farm you out to Bristol, another city, or Newcastle, another city. And then it kind of causes as many problems as it solves, because yes, they'll have social housing, so their rent will come down, but their social networks could put their childcare, if they've got children, could put carers and friends who help out, if they're ill and they've got a bad back and need someone to carry heavy bricks and heavy potatoes, could put. What else is there? And then there was one, it's being anecdotal, but as an example, there was a lady who killed herself because she wouldn't be able to cope with being moved away.
You know what the best Commonwealth economy is? Canada.
Okay.
So, and Canada doesn't do a lot of that nonsense.
About the current situation there.
Canada, and
I just know that Prime Minister is very politically correct.
To some extent, also maybe Australia, but Canada is the way to go.
All right.
They are fairly socialist and fairly capitalist.
All right.
But they don't go overboard.
They're somewhere the best of both. I would have probably said
French and English people, I think, should make babies, and then the world is all good.
All right. I would have gone with the Danish model, because their students get money from the government to support them through their studies, and then when they graduate they understand they're going to pay back into the system, and there's some give and take. But the greed in England, it's sickening.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's sickening.
It brings out the worst in people.
Oh gosh, I can't live there. I'm really moving on the subject. So I said for the election, I don't know what more I want to say about it.
Well, it's not that important, right?
No. I was going to say, yeah, Brexit. So even though I was a Brexit voter, I don't know if not that I don't know if I'm a Brexit supporter anymore, but I lack a Brexit leader now, because the Brexit voters could look up to Boris Johnson. I didn't really... I say that almost vomiting. Farage, yeah, he betrayed... his voters. So he took in some donations last month on the basis he was going to stand a candidate in all 650 seats in the UK. Mm-hmm. He only stood candidates in 300 of them, but by then he'd already collected donations from people. So it's betrayal. I didn't finance it because
So the customers should ask for their money back, I guess.
Oh, maybe. But I think he wasn't actually a political party. He set up a business. So all he has to do is maybe go into liquidation, and then there's nowhere for the lawsuits to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad.
But this is the problem, because, as I said, so there was Boris and Farage. I had reasons for voting Leave, and I'll stand here right now and defend them. It wasn't just because I was uneducated or whatever, and that's a conversation for another day. I think we had it the last time. Mm-hmm. But you need to have someone you can look up to in your movement, and Boris Johnson is just cringe because, as I said, he runs away from journalists who have valid questions to ask him. Farage has betrayed people who... I'd never donate money to him, because I could tell any of them are just out for what they can get, and it seems to be the case. Then there was another guy, he is called Jacob Rees-Mogg. He was another Brexit supporter, but then I heard he had some funds in an investment fund. He's moved offshore ahead of Brexit, so to protect his money. One, it's dodgy, and two, he made some comments about a residential block of apartments that went on fire, and the comments were seen as inflammatory. So he's been kind of put away, like he can't come out. I mean, we haven't heard officially, but if you can read between the lines. So yeah, Brexit movement in England is without a leader right now. We don't have a leader.
But the train is going.
Right. So it's awkward now, because I saw a guy in the airport, and it's like, we have to kind of carry the movement, because we voted for it, and we probably vote Leave again, just out of principle, respect what we voted. But there's no one to carry the campaign around the whole world.
Because you don't need to campaign anymore.
Well, not campaign. Well, in a way, yes, because the argument isn't fully settled. Like, some Remainers want to reopen it. So, I mean...
Wait a second, but isn't there
is campaign even the right word?
Isn't there a concrete date already?
It keeps getting extended. Well, the election result tonight will help with that.
Yeah.
If Boris Johnson has a majority, it will be over next month.
Okay.
If there's another hung parliament, it will keep going. Or maybe the EU would say, you know what, we're fed up of you, goodbye. Yeah, we could just speculate all night about that, so it won't. But yeah, what else have I been...
You said you have been to India and America.
I have. Oh, but that's long ago. So yeah, you'd think because I have the British passport, I'd want to be living there, or like I'd want to be visiting there, but I wouldn't want to visit USA again. So like, the only people who have like, if you like, unlimited access to the country are American passport holders. Anyone else, maybe with the exception of Israelis, just have to prepare themselves for a grilling on the border. And you get a major, and this was this is way before Trump, so they can't say, oh no, it was always nice, it was just Trump who was racist. I went there, I think 2007, and it was for a skydiving trip with a bunch of students, and I got to the border guard. And then he's like very brisk and abrupt with me. He's like, yeah, we're going to have to get your suitcase off the carousel to inspect it. I was like, okay. And yeah, follow me. And he just marches me off to this room. It's called secondary questioning. And I'm like, they're thinking, okay, what do I do now? Then all the other students just passing, all the other white English students just passing through, no problems whatsoever. And then it's, why has he got stuck behind? And I'm kind of nervous, not even because I've done anything wrong, but more because they're about to drive off to South California, miles away, way before the days of Uber and Lyft. And USA hasn't got good public transport, and I'm literally stranded in the point that if I don't leave with them, I'll face a $300 taxi ride to be reunited with them. It actually happened on a previous occasion, someone else who got lost. So I was like more nervous about that. But I'm like, I hope he's holding me here for a reason. I'm just left in this space called secondary questioning with Mexicans, I think Romanians, and a Chinese lady. And I'm just so super thirsty. And I asked the guy if I could have some water. Nice of him, he went and got me some. Then the supervisor started yelling at him like, what the hell did you just do? You left this guy unattended. He could have ran away. He could have, violated our country's security. And I'm like, dude, you have my luggage, you have my passport. All these people armed with guns. Like, where the hell have I been running to? Like, it was, just really annoyed me. But then waiting to be seen, and now I overhear them talking with the Chinese lady. And the guy's banging the table. It's like, your sister's here illegally. Your mother's here illegally. They should have left ages ago. Where are they? Why haven't they left? You better tell me what I need to know. If you don't tell me what I need to know, I'm going to go and get my supervisor. And if you think I'm not a nice guy, wait till you meet him. And he's like, the FBI are looking for you. The CIA are looking for you. And then the lady's here. I don't even think she spoke a word of English. And she's got her 4 or 5-year-old boy with her holding her hand. He's like, I'll put you in jail. I'll put your son in jail. Is that what you want? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is this a TV show? Is this reality? Like, what am I actually seeing here?
Maybe it's just the most effective way to speak to those people. I don't know.
Well, she didn't look like she spoke any English. And then a lady from Air China wandered over, a stewardess, and she offered to translate. And I thought, that's not cool. Not that it's not cool that someone offered to help, but in these kinds of legal situations, you kind of either want to speak through a translator or through a lawyer, just because you want to be clear about who said what and all that stuff.
Yep.
And then they kind of took her away over to the side, and then I was waiting for my sort of interrogation, and then the guy called me forward, and he's like, yeah, so when foreigners visit America, they need to clear this thing called ESTA, Electronic System of Travel Authorization. They claim you've got visa-free travel if you're an EU passport holder, and I think that's just a technicality. They don't call it a visa, but this ESTA thing is a visa in all but name, because if you don't go on their American government website and fill in this ESTA form, you'll be deported. So to me, and you pay $15 give or take for this ESTA. So it's like, yeah, I have 2 ESTAs in front of me for you. Why do you have 2? And I said, oh, that would have been easily explained 2 hours ago. I lost my passport. I had to renew because I needed to travel again. And the ESTA website clearly stated the old ESTA's voided with the old passport and you need to apply for a new one. And I actually would not have bought the new one, so I'd have saved myself the $15 had I have known. And it makes sense, because when the British government void a passport, I don't think they're obliged to go around the world telling all the other, government departments here, there and everywhere to void stuff. So my ESTA for the old passport was still valid and I could have travelled on it, it seemed. But it's like, yeah, we've got 2 ESTAs for you and I need to clear up this discrepancy with the ESTA team, but they're closed and it's Friday, so I'm going to have to keep you here until Monday. And this here means just like a waiting area, like like you'd be at a bus stop, and I'm like, dude, no, I mean, like, you're kidding me, like, deport me. I don't know what the point of me staying here is, because these guys are going way off to the south of the United States, and without them I'm screwed. So it's like, oh, you know what, just have your passport back and your bag back, go and have a nice trip, like, and welcome to America. And I just thought, you know what, nah, I'm not coming back to this place, because it's so expensive to get there. And you kind of hope, well, it doesn't work like this, but if you spend a lot on a trip, it's going to be stress-free, it's going to be paradise, it's going to be bliss. And that was anything but bliss.
So did you go on the trip?
Yeah, he just said, you know what, it's just bureaucracy, come into America, just move on. And then he was being nice, but I'd had such a bad taste in the back of my mouth from what I'd been seeing in that zone.
Well, the reason was the 2.
Yeah, I had
papers,
2
right?
ESTAs, and I had a reason, and as I said, I wouldn't have bought the new one because I would have saved myself the money, but your rules told me I must have 2, because the old one, a new one, because the old one gets invalidated.
Yeah.
And what annoys me more is that the border guard who I met on the way off the plane at his terminal would have had the same message that he gave the secondary guys to deal with. But if he had just spoke, it would have been over. Or maybe if he took me over there, I wouldn't have been sitting there like just for 2 hours just thinking, what have I done wrong? What's going to happen? And I've seen other stories since then, like a family from London wanted to go to Disney in Florida, spent £9,000 for the trip, tickets, hotels, transfers, all that, got to the aircraft door. Oh, no, it's not happening. You can inquire with the US Embassy about why you're not letting you come here anymore, but yeah, your trip's not happening. And then it turned out he had some name.
America doesn't play.
Abdullah or Mohammed, or it kind of flagged like someone else they was looking for. That was it. And he spent $9,000 for that. Really?
Well, come on. That's just a bad coincidence for him.
Yeah, but see, I just see these stories, and it's like, at least when you take a flight in the EU, you can get really low fares if you look at the calendars carefully, or you can hitchhike, something I've done a lot of. But to go to America, it's a lot of money, and then even on the ground in America, yeah, I wasn't even happy when I even got there. So when I'm in a taxi and a fare's €8 and I give them a 10, I expect them to give me back my change. And then most times, because I'm just have it. So I got in a taxi, I think it was Las Vegas, and then I gave them the £10 for my $10 for my $7 trip. And then I was like, can I help you? And then I realised, hold on, he's not giving me back my change. And I thought, what a bastard, like.
No, it's just, they just used to tipping.
See,
It's weird.
used to tipping in his own culture, but that to me is strange. And I would have given him the tip, but then I asked this to my friend from Ohio, and she said she's an American, and she would have expected him to motion to her, have your change back. But he didn't do that. And I was like, wow. Then I remembered another incident. I was in the hotel, and then the payphone, because I wasn't using my British phone out there. It would have cost a fortune. And I was putting dollar after dollar into the phone, and it just wasn't connecting. And I went to the receptionist, oh, hey, that phone's not working, and it's taken $5 from me. She's just staring at me. And I was like, was it my accent? And I went and spoke to the next lady in the next desk, just staring at me. She's just like, I don't know whether she was in a trance or what, but I was like, ugh. And then just the food there, everything seems to be soda, like a Coca-Cola or a Fanta, and all the food seems to be French fries. And then when I got back from that trip, even just the sight of that stuff for a good 6 months made me feel sick. I couldn't.
That was more than 10 years ago, right?
Well, so at the time I came back, and then for the next 6 months, I could not look at any fast food.
Well, but I think nowadays America is being pretty progressive when it comes to lifestyle.
I don't know, but as I said,
Because
that experience
social media
of
changed.
racial profiling in America was way before Trump. It was Obama years when I was there.
But it didn't sound like it was racial profiling.
Very much so.
Your case was the double papers and
but everyone in that
the Abdul guy was just a similar name.
Chinese lady, but everyone in that interrogation area, as I call it, was non-white. And when I asked an English guy how his trip was,
because usually I would say that illegal immigrants would be probably mostly from either Asian, African, or maybe Middle Eastern countries. I'm not sure.
That's true.
Or maybe South American.
But then, I've been quite fluid in my thoughts this evening, and I've just hit a hurdle. I think I'll find what I was going to say. Yeah, I spoke to an English guy. He said he had his passport stamped. Welcome to America. Spoke to some blonde Danish girls. Passport stamped. Welcome to America. So I just think it's best they just have tourists who they're not going to need to profile. And I might be at risk of being profiled.
It's not really true. My father told me that he was interrogated quite long when he went to America.
Mm-hmm. And what relation to what?
Well, he was just visiting. He was just a tourist.
After EU or before EU membership?
After EU.
Wow. But then maybe they thought he's from a low-income country, he'll overstay.
I don't know, but so that's what he said.
If I'm going to spend that kind of money in a vacation, as I said, doesn't cause the trip to be more peaceful or more relaxing.
No.
But in my head, say, I'm paying more for this trip, I must feel more at ease.
Well, that's on you then, right?
Yeah, and I stick to my principle, and all these silly people who want to go there and spend money and have that episode. I mean, don't get me wrong, if people get there, have their passport stamped, like my former housemate, he's British born, but his mother had him in Iran, so his place of birth in his passport says Tehran, Iran. Every single time he goes there, he's pulled over. What do you know about the Iranian government? What do you know about this? What do you know? And why would you go back there? He's like, oh no, because it's just there, but when I get inside America, it's fine. And I'm like, just no, because I'm spending money on this trip, and yeah, I prefer Latvia and Ukraine 1,000 times, million times more than going to America.
And what about India?
India, that's even further back. Road rules are crazy there, and this is speaking of India 2007. Like in many countries, you have a 2-second rule, 5-second rule, 10-second rule. You don't drive right up behind someone that you could hit them. But in India, people just aren't playing. They just want you out of their way, and it's really scary. And I got hit by a motorcycle, and I was a pedestrian, and I was walking nowhere near the road. It wasn't really even a pavement area, but where pedestrians would walk. And then the guy crashes into me. He's like, in broken English, "Sorry, I don't have any brakes." And then off he went into the traffic.
See, at least they were polite.
Yeah, so I go to India before I went to America again. Food hygiene seemed to be a problem. I guess this is 12 years ago. Many people got sick. The one guy,
Local people?
No, us tourists who were visiting there.
Yeah, but local people are
Local people be
fine.
used to it.
Yeah.
And this thing, I have a thing of eating food really late. So yeah, late after the expiry date. Not because I do it intentionally, but I feel when I'm at home and I can build up my immune system ahead of any foreign trips. When I have a foreign trip, it won't knock me out like it does knock out other people who are so specific about eating food that hasn't expired at home.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you get what I'm trying to say, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Any other anecdotes from there? People are extremely friendly because we'd be on a bus with a driver and he'd be driving us through all different kinds of parts of India. And when we got to a new restaurant or a new petrol station, he'd be talking to the clerk at the restaurant or at the petrol station behind the till with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa, do you work here before you picked us up? So no, we just made friends. Like, yeah, they're just very quickly in each other's personal space, which is a nice thing because people are just so, as England's a perfect example, you don't know the person on the left of you or the person on the right of you, but in India, people they really make time for one another.
See,
It's really
that's
nice.
why you need more people in England, so you can have that nice, comfy relationship with other people.
I should say they need more people in England because I'm trying to get out. I've been trying to get citizenships to anywhere who will have me, and it's interesting because I didn't realize it was so hard.
But wouldn't you be able to get one in Russia?
I haven't tried, and that was one of the first countries I thought of asking, but under Putin's policy towards former Soviet republics like here, Lithuania, Estonia, Ukraine and Georgia, on principle, I can't anymore because I finally get it. I mean, because for the longest time, Latvians or any of these aforementioned countries are like, oh no, you can't trust Russians or they're going to try and invade us again and blah, blah, blah. I just called it hysteria and paranoia and whatnot. And then when Crimea happened, and I spoke with my Russian friend who studied international relations at university. So I kind of hoped for a sort of developed argument from her about why it was abruptly taken back. And she said, there's ethnic Russians there, therefore it's our land. And I was like, oh, because all the Latvians are complaining about Daugavpils being majority ethnic Russian. I didn't really take into consideration. So it's like, maybe they do have a point that just abruptly the Russians can say, yeah, we have ethnic Russians here. So yeah, all our land again. And I didn't really appreciate it. So I was like, oh gosh, now I have to appreciate what you're saying. So yeah.
Well, it's not like because what makes it a little bit complicated in Crimea that they actually did vote, and they sort of vote. It's like Brexit.
Yeah, see,
A
they did vote,
big enough,
but no, see,
big enough population wanted to actually.
They did, and I think realistically, if they were so oppressed under Russian rule, there'd be protests outside foreign embassies, Crimeans running away to seek asylum, and there's not. They genuinely want to be Russian, but I just think out of respect for, call it cultural sensitivities in Lithuania particularly, because they're very, very suspicious of Russians.
Really?
Very much so. I don't know what it is, but yeah, if the Russian government had invited some observers from these states, said, hey, just be there and watch it would have meant so much, and they'd have still won the referendum anyway, but not at the expense of destroying diplomatic relations with all these neighbours. And it's like,
I don't know if they destroyed it.
They did.
I don't
No?
know. I won't say
All
so.
these states are inviting British and American troops to conduct military exercises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means our economy grows. And
I don't know about that. No, well,
Of course.
Of
course.
maybe. I just think it's sending out a message to Russia. No, we've got backing, so you can't take our land from us.
Yeah, well, it's a show of force.
Well, this is what I mean. Why did it have to be resolved through force?
Well, it's not really resolved by force. It's just the presence of force.
Oh, but this is how you get brinkmanship. He does this, he does this, he does this, he does this. You know, and it just goes on and on and on.
Well, I believe in Tom Clancy storyline. So afterwards, everybody will shake hands and say,
I don't know.
Crisis avoided.
I hope so, but the way it's going, it's like I really don't know.
Well, I guess a Russian was recently a guest, and he said that Putin will step down as well. He won't be running for president again, so his term ends 2022.
But I just think
Something like
he
that.
won't be president if he doesn't want to be. If he decides you know what,
If he wants, he could.
yeah. And then the other problem.
Well, he could be. He couldn't be back to back because he's already in his second term.
He could fiddle the constitution if he needs
Maybe.
to. Of course he can. But I'm saying, and the other issue is more to do with the people behind him, in terms of the people who will run Russia
Well,
after he
Are we
does
are we
decide to
talking
step
some
down.
Jews?
No. I'm
No?
saying how you run a Russia that has, if you like, revolved around him since 2000.
Mm.
How it's possible? I don't know. Like if you have,
Oh, easily. You just improve your relations with America, and yeah,
okay,
have some more McDonald's and Burger King.
maybe if it's
So
as simple
it's
as that.
all
No,
good.
I just mean is when you have a system where everyone's focused on a central figure. How you?
I don't know if everybody is focused on it.
Come on.
It's just a political figure. It's like saying Germans are focused on Merkel.
They're not.
They're
That's
not.
not a comparison. The
And
only
Brits are
the
not
only
focused
ones
on,
who probably come close is maybe be North Korea and their leader. Or
don't take the media portrayal as the real perception of society.
no, but I'm saying just generally, I think Russia is built around him. It just is.
The government is, yes.
Yeah, but I don't know.
But,
No, I'm saying in terms of
but
stability
Russia-
for the country.
But 170 million Russians probably don't give a damn about him.
I don't know.
Probably.
But I just think all the
There
institutions.
are many million people who do.
Yeah.
But again, Russia is so big.
All right.
Not everybody cares about him.
Fair enough. I don't know, but I think with all of these kind of things going through my mind, I thought, you know what, it's best not to apply for Russian citizenship because it's more about relationships with neighboring countries in terms of here, Ukraine, like, because I can't speak Russian in many places.
So will you apply for Belarus?
Oh, we'll see how this weekend goes. I've been to Uzbekistan's Ministry of Internal Affairs. They said it's general rules like a 5-year. Every country's got this 5-year rule, but the Ministry of Sport in Uzbekistan could support me, except for the fact I flipping vomited on the table. So it's a bit hard to ask them for support at the moment.
But that's not an issue for them.
Then no, I've disrespected them.
No, you can just say, "Oh well, I got sick."
No, because I mean, at this weekend, I have respect for the Ukrainians if they can go and apologize to the Uzbeks and say it was them that did it to me. But I don't know if
Do
they
you
will.
want an Uzbek citizenship?
Yeah, why not?
So apply.
But it's complicated.
Forget about
Every
the
country I've spoken
vomiting.
to around the world, it's a 5-year rule, more or less.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Tajikistan, I've spoken to them, so I'd happily be a citizen there.
I probably don't know anything about Tajikistan.
It's one of your former relative countries from Soviet times.
Yeah, well, still.
You've moved on. Yeah. Who else have I spoke to? My Kazakhstan friend thinks I'm stupid. I should stay in England, and I'm like, no.
Wait a second, Kazakhstan
My friends
thinks you are better off in England?
Yeah, they're saying yeah.
Because probably that's true.
They can go and live there if they want. Oh,
They would like to.
right, but I'm like, not for me. And then the annoying thing is every competition recently, I've been allowed to go flagless, or I've been able to go in Ukraine's flag or Tajikistan's flag, but Belarus is insisting I go under the British flag at their competition this weekend. And I was like, dude, why does it matter? The KGB gonna come after you? And they're like, yeah, they would, because you wouldn't be competing under the flag of your passport. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, well, it's a solid logic.
I don't.
You are a British citizen.
Yeah.
Why not compete for Britain?
Bad memories galore. Bad memories, vile memories.
Well, then you just apply for Belarusian citizenship,
We'll see.
and then I think Belarus and Ukraine are quite nice.
Yeah, but Ukraine, after this incident, I don't know. Because the guys who did it would be my training partners.
Then Belarus.
Yeah,
Just
Belarus.
nice people.
Yeah. I was going to say something on that point very quickly. Yeah, so the Russia-Belarus border isn't really policed because it's for Belarusians and Russian citizens only. So would you advise me against you using that to cross into Russia without a visa or not?
What would be the point for you then?
I would want to go to Moscow to see my friends.
Oh yeah, sure, do it.
But then it's the fear of being caught.
And what will they do to you? Drink.
A fine?
You just offer some vodka.
Yeah.
All right.
They'll fine me, I don't know.
Okay.
But to be
you
fair,
go.
it's all sort of hypothetical now. So I have bought a return ticket here next week. So, but I'm just thinking to myself, would I do it? Should I do it? Because I've looked on people on TripAdvisor. They say the border guards are on and off because they assume it's just Belarusians and Russians crossing that border, and then coming back here to fly back. Oh gosh, I wish I did it now. I've already booked a flight out of Belarus back to Riga, but had I not have, I think I would have. I would have been a bit scary. Would you? So before you'd have been too young to contemplate it. So that was 2004, 15 years ago. Would you have contemplated going over the border into Poland or Lithuania without a visa?
Well, I wasn't interested in going.
Yeah,
anywhere,
you were too young, so it's hard to put you in that.
But
if
I would need to, sure.
You don't have any interest in Russia for me to project the story on you to see how you'd react.
What do you mean?
I mean, as in because you don't speak Russian, so it's like for you to go somewhere without a visa to somewhere you wouldn't be able to converse your way out of the situation.
Yeah.
I would do it more to see if I could converse my way out of the situation. That's more why I would do it.
By the way, wouldn't it be for you the best to actually still be a British citizen but to work for Russia?
I don't know.
In some form?
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe you can have a spy job.
Because like the Ukrainians, I would cross the border without a passport and be like, hey, I'm coming to visit you. And I wouldn't fear how they would react to me because I just feel they're genuinely accepting. But I haven't seen the Russian authorities because I haven't been in the east of here or anywhere where I would see them to know how they're going to react.
Yeah.
So if I hadn't bought that return thing, because my friend, and it actually would have worked out really well for my friend because she wanted to go away for Christmas. She bought a flight to London of all places, and she did it over Christmas. She'd have needed help for childcare for her kids. So I could have said, hey, I've just surprised you by showing up to care so you can go away, because every time she goes away she has to take the kids with her and she doesn't have any free time. So I could have actually given her like a week or 2 weeks free time.
Sort of.
So there's even a part of me that thinks maybe I'll see how the ground feels like in Belarus and then just take the overnight train into Russia, and then just forfeit my return flight.
I guess that's possible. I guess.
I'll go to their embassy in Belarus as a formal thing. If the competition goes well, I don't know. Even if it doesn't go well, if the competition goes well, I might be going to the Belarusian ministry, and then.
Okay, you let me know.
Yeah.
How's it going?
For
How's
sure.
it going?
But I don't know, man. Like every time I feel like I'm going back to England from anywhere else I've visited, I feel depressed. So it's like.
But you are going back to England because you get money there, right?
Work through these warehousing jobs, but it's not gainful employment. I'm not going anywhere with it, or doing stewarding in the football stadiums. I don't have any family links there. I just have bad childhood memories. The local people are racist to me, so it's just I really want new beginnings, and it's taken way too long.
I would guess you can just stay in Belarus
indefinitely, huh?
Sure.
Well, we'll find out. I think this weekend. I don't think there's any other topics I wanted to mention. There probably are, but they're circulating.
Oh man,
in the back of my mind. Yeah.
Well, you were plenty of topics tonight.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we have.
Any final thoughts?
Thanks for helping me out again. Yeah.
Thanks for being my guest again.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me press a lot of stops.
I think it gets easier when